Hi, this is Dan Bullard, retired electronics engineer, sitting on the front deck of my houseboat again. It's morning, it's like August, it's really cool. I've watched this guy's video before.
Who's that fat bastard?
I'm looking at it again, and here's his first point. What are harmonics? Harmonics are non-sinusoidal currents or voltages that are present in a normally sinusoidal network. So he's going with the harmonic current thing again. He's obfuscating. But most importantly, think about it this way, okay? This is basic physics. Basic physics. I'm not even going to talk about my laws of physics. Basic physics. A harmonic is a multiple of the target frequency, whatever is 1 kilohertz, 1 megahertz, whatever. So are harmonics non-sinusoidal currents or voltages? Well, a harmonic, like 2 kilohertz for a 1 kilohertz fundamental, 2 kilohertz, if you do an FFT on it, and you look at the signal there, so do an FFT, exclude everything except 2 kilohertz. Now do an inverse FFT. What do you get? You get a sine wave. It can't be non-sinusoidal. Everything, that's the beauty of an FFT. Everything in the FFT, one bend at a time, is a sine wave. Every single one is a sine wave. If it's non-sinusoidal, it's got other frequencies in it. And it can't have other frequencies in it if it's a harmonic. If it's a harmonic, it's a single tone, which means it's a sine wave. You know, look at this one. They were testing the CMRR, and they had this really nasty wave. That's non-sinusoidal. You can see there's a sine wave buried in there somewhere, but there's a bunch of other stuff in there. Now, if I take that wave and I do an FFT on it, and then I multiply everything in there by 0 except for bin 9, which is 10 kilohertz, multiply everything times 0, and then do the inverse FFT, kaboom. What do I get? I get a sine wave, and it can't be anything other than a sine wave. That's the beauty of an FFT. Like that guy in Tektronix told me, oh, an FFT is just a button on a scope. Well, dude, that's why you're from Peru, you know, because you don't understand anything. An FFT is not just a button on a scope. It's not just something you call up in Excel. It's a beautiful, beautiful algorithm for figuring out what's going on. And every bin in the FFT is a sine wave. So there's no such thing as a non-sinusoidal harmonic, period. Every harmonic is a sine wave, every single one. Now, add them together, you might get something else. But every single harmonic is a sine wave. It can't be anything else. It's so ridiculous. I can't believe anybody would say that. This is his first point, his very first point in his lecture. So, this guy doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. We all know he's from Wisconsin. We all know that Wisconsin is the epicenter of electronics. Of course, you know, I only worked in Silicon Valley. That has nothing to do with electronics. Nobody in Silicon Valley knows anything about electronics. But people from Wisconsin, oh, they're experts, you know. That and cheese, I think. But, come on, man. I mean, and I've been, you know, all over the world. I've been everywhere. Nothing compares with Silicon Valley, I'll tell you that. So somebody who's from, like, Kokomo, Indiana, they were the most, well, not the worst. Tektronix was probably the worst in the U.S. But if you're not from Silicon Valley, you don't know anything about electronics. I don't care, MIT, come on, let's remember what MIT did, you know. They can't even figure out what makes up a sine wave or a square wave or a triangle wave. They can't even figure it out. So they're complete fucking idiots. Silicon Valley's where it's at. It ain't Wisconsin, I can guarantee you that. So Harmonics are non-sinusoidal currents or voltages? No. Harmonics are pure sine waves. Every harmonic is a pure sine wave. Look at that 10 kilohertz. As I mentioned in my video on that one, if that 10 kilohertz was distorted by something, you wouldn't see it here, because remember, I took the spectrum and I deleted everything that wasn't in bin 9. So that means everything that isn't 10 kilohertz. Then I did the inverse FFT. You cannot have anything else in there. There are no harmonics. And if there's no harmonics, it's not non-sinusoidal. It's not a square wave or triangle wave or a glitchy wave or any of that stuff. It's a pure sine wave. Everything in a spectrum, one bin at a time, is a pure sine wave. And that's the beauty of the FFT. You know, you have to get used to this. This is what I want you to understand. FFT is the most important thing for you to know. What the FFT does. It's not just a button on a scope. That guy from Peru will never amount to anything, because he believes an FFT is just a button on a scope. And that's what everybody at Tektronix believes. It's just a button on a scope. And my buddy Evan, who had a master's degree, who got a job at Tektronix, he bought a book on the FFT, and I'm like, Evan, why do you need a book on the FFT? What the hell's wrong with you, you know? I mean, I've read some books on the FFT, DSP-based testing by Matt Mahoney, but you don't really have to know much. I mean, you do it in an FFT in Excel or in anything else, you can see if you have 9 cycles, you get your signal in bin 9. If you have 10 cycles, you get your signal in bin 10. If you have 11 cycles, you get your signal in bin 11. So it's like, what else do you need to know? It's friggin' hilarious. Anyway, so this guy, point number one, he gets it wrong. And you know, is it because he's from Wisconsin? I don't know. So I don't think he knows what he's talking about. I don't want to be too hard on him because I don't know the guy. He hasn't talked to me. I don't think he's going to talk to me now, though. Anyway, it's a beautiful morning. You can see back there. It's just gorgeous. And no Alan this morning. He rose almost every other day, but I don't see him today. No, he's not there. Anyway, so once again from the river, this is Dan Bullard. See you later.